Okay, here we go, here we go, here we go. We are in, and this music video from Jamiroquai from 1994, I believe, predicted exactly that. And this is the period we are in, a period of illusions, a period of deceptions. And let me see what exactly year that's from. I think that's 1994. Doesn't say here. Anyway, again, my name is Dan Cohen. This is Uncaptured Media, July 9th, 11:15 a.m. And today I'm going to expose what I have come to understand that the influencer and American Communist Party executive, Jackson Hinkle, is a national security state operative working for not simply the American national security state or another one, but for a transnational, or you could even say supranational organization that is sitting in plain sight. And the evidence has been sitting out there all along, and many have suspected that Jackson is a Fed or an op or something like that, but no one could ever really put anything together. And so no one could make any progress. And so what I'm going to start with, what I'm really going to be explaining is not actually fundamentally about Jackson Hinkle. Here I am. It's not actually about Jackson Hinkle. It's about long-term national security imperatives that are being executed behind a theater of which Jackson Hinkle is just a small part, and he does not even know that he's part of this broader theater. He doesn't know what the real agendas are behind this theater. He doesn't know what's going on. So before I get into anything about Jackson Hinkle, I'm going to first try to give a brief explanation of what is behind this theater. Why is Jackson Hinkle even relevant? Why was he put out front to be this supposed leading communist revolutionary in the American Communist Party? And to understand that, first I'm going to show you the website of Houstonic.live, and this is run by a man named Mark Kulak out of the Boston, Massachusetts area, who is, simply put, I think the best analyst in at least the United States. And Mark is not only an analyst, he is a researcher and an archivist. And thanks to the work of Mark Kulak and of Jonathan J. Cooey of GigaOhm Biological, and I've spoken about both of these guys before, I am able to build on their work and understand this national security theater and some of the agendas behind it. And I don't have all of the answers. Absolutely not. I'm learning every day. I'm gonna start by showing the website. Here we go. I'm gonna make myself, let me see, put myself in the corner there and not there. Let's see if it'll work. Okay. Maybe I'll, yeah. Mark Kulak has done tremendous work exposing many things, many subjects that you are not supposed to learn about, that I'm not supposed to learn about, that no American or anyone else is supposed to know about. And I think first and foremost, we have to talk about this man, Dr. Joshua Lederberg. Now, Dr. Joshua Lederberg was born in 1925. He died in, I believe, 2004. And he is arguably the most influential American of the last century. And there's a good reason that you have probably never heard of him, unless you are an avid watcher of Housatonic.live or Gigaome Biological, then you've probably never heard of Dr. Joshua Lederberg. Certainly, Jackson Hinkle is never going to be able to discuss Dr. Joshua Lederberg. And what I just showed in that Jamiroquai video, virtual insanity, genetic engineering, this is what Dr. Joshua Lederberg was predicting decades ago in the early years of the Cold War, in the 1960s, when he was developing basically the reality that we are living in today, a virtual reality. And not virtual reality, but rather virtual insanity. So, let me give you a sense of who Dr. Joshua Lederberg was. He was a Nobel Prize winning molecular biologist, won the Nobel Prize in 1958. Here you can see Lederberg with a middle-aged Dr. Fauci. Let's scroll down. Mark has a tremendous archive here of Lederberg. Here he is in the 1939 at the Zionist Organization of America convention. I have to take a second to actually pinpoint which he is. He's a young man in this. That might be him right there. He was a Stanford University professor, but the simplest way to explain it is that Dr. Joshua Lederberg advised every single president from Eisenhower, World War II, all the way to George W. Bush. So if there's such thing as a deep state, Jackson Hinkle talks a lot about, and his buddy Haz Aldin, and a lot of people, myself, have talked about the deep state, the deep state, the deep state. Well, what is the deep state? That's just a vague term. The deep state is comprised of people who determine agendas that don't change from president to president. Presidents come, presidents go. But the agenda does not change every 4 years. So I'm basically just going to ignore comments. I'm well aware that they're being swarmed by the ACP Haz al-Din or Ali Hamoud or whatever, his digital army of guerrillas, which may or may not be real people, may or may not just be Indians on computers. But with about 100 followers each account, each one dedicated to attacking me, as they're doing on my X account and they're doing in my YouTube comments. So I'm just basically going to ignore it for now, which is unfortunate because there are real people who actually want to learn here and want to know the truth. But this information will get out nonetheless. So I resume. Dr. Joshua Lederberg, you can see him on the right there. That's him with the glasses and the very white head, is with Kennedy. Okay? Let's scroll down some more. We need a new era of genetic medicine, he says. He collaborated with a Dr. Henry Kissinger. A lot of people like to talk about Henry Kissinger, but, they'll never talk about Joshua Lederberg. I wonder why that is. Here he is with the David Rockefeller. Here he is seated right next to Ronald Reagan. He was advising Ronald Reagan, of course. Here he is getting an award from George H.W. Bush. And he wrote a letter to Dick Cheney. He had a tremendous influence on Dick Cheney. He worked on the Pentagon, the Pentagon Defense Science Board, something like Pentagon Science Board. it's very hard to overstate the influence of Dr. Joshua Lederberg. And my point in spending the first few minutes talking about him, here he is meeting, there he is right there, with Bill Clinton in 1998, I believe, is because Dr. Joshua Lederberg, as I understand, thank you, Mark Kulak of Houstonic.live, he is really the ideological father of the virtual insanity that we are living in that has created Jackson Hinkle, among many others. Again, Jackson Hinkle is just one small actor in this. Okay, let's move on. So here's Jackson Hinkle. Here's Al Jazeera English's summary of what has recently happened with Jackson Hinkle. I'll just play it.
Down with USA. Down with Zionists. Down with Zionists.
We're at the funeral of Sayyid Ali Khamenei on bike, and there are millions of people here. It's an incredible show of force. There are young people, there are old people, people who can barely walk, people in wheelchairs, men and women. It's an incredible show of love for the Supreme Leader.
There's no leaders really like him left in the world, maybe a few. Mojtaba Khamenei is an example. But after the crimes of the U.S. empire, as an American, I have to be here to say that I condemn this. It's a great honor. It's a great honor. I've wanted to come to Iran for a long time.
All right, so bring me back there. So Jackson Hinkle on the 4th of July weekend was in Tehran, Iran for the funeral of the supreme leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei, who was assassinated by the United States. And a whole bunch of ostensible anti-imperialist influencers were there. Now, what I have long had suspicions, as many people have, including people in his own party, I know for a fact, that Jackson Hinkle is not on the level, that there's something going on with him. And many people have attacked Jackson Hinkle as a Fed, but nobody's been able to actually bring the goods. Nobody's been able to actually make a real case that Jackson Hinkle is a Fed. His association with Tulsi Gabbard, the former director of national intelligence. Okay, that is weird. But, everyone thought, some people thought, well, maybe Tulsi Gabbard was really anti-war. And so that's what, Jackson Hinkle was. And she had this progressive side before the Democratic Party burned her. And then she went MAGA. And, she was an environmentalist and she was surfing with Jackson. And that's what they were doing. There's all kinds of surface level claims and theories about why Jackson Hinkle being a Fed. But again, no one until now has been able to make a solid case that Jackson Hinkle is a national security state operative. And I will say, I was friendly with the American Communist Party, and I still am friendly with some of the members. I don't have any beef with the American Communist Party per se. But what I have come to realize, just as I realized their, I don't know, whatever position he had on their board or whatever it was, Danny Shaw was a federal agent who tried to take down the American Communist Party and myself and my colleague, Kim Ives. I knew long before that happened that Danny Shaw was a snake and was working for them with a capital T. Was not what he said he was. Because I was working in Haiti, and I never worked with Danny Shaw, but Danny Shaw was hanging out in Haiti too. And Danny Shaw was absolutely in line with the State Department, the U.S. regime change imperial narrative, 100%. There is a burgeoning rebellion in the streets of Haiti that I was documenting with my colleague Kim Ives of Haiti Liberté. And we made a documentary series about it called Another Vision. And Danny Shaw took the exact opposite. At first, he was cheering me on, and then he started to take a very, very diametrically opposed position. And I started to think, this guy's just regurgitating State Department propaganda. He's trying to infiltrate the left, the anti-imperialist left, with interventionist propaganda to crush this rebellion against neocolonialism. That is exactly what Danny Shaw was doing. And in fact, when I saw that I figured he's not that important. He's not that relevant. He's kind of a nobody. The only time I ever met Danny Shaw was at Max Blumenthal's house, about 5 minutes from where I live. I was back when I was friends with Max Blumenthal. I went over there. This was in 2022, I believe. I went over to his house, and who was there? Danny Shaw. Okay. Now, I hung out, talked to Danny. At that point, I just kind of felt he was misguided, but maybe not necessarily a bad guy. And he was visiting from New York City, and I let him crash in my place. He slept in my basement and left the next morning, and that was that. I never met Danny Shaw again after that. So contrary to the claims of Haz al-Din Ali Hamoud, the ACP executive chairman or whatever, that he said, at least in a private group, that Eddie, whatever his name, Legber Smith said in the chat with him, with Kyle Pettis, with Carlos Garrido, most of the ACP leadership. I never promoted Danny Shaw, nor did I ever meet him outside of that one time, and I never met him in Haiti. I never collaborated with him. So Haz was lying in a chat with those guys, and he cannot produce evidence because it's a lie. And so that should show Carlos and Eddie and Noah and all these other guys that Haz is just a liar. Aside from being just a basic child brain who at the, I don't know, what is he, 25 years old, if that? His brain has just stopped developing from childhood. How do you have a 20-something-year-old as the head of your party? It should be embarrassing. What has this guy actually contributed other than just being a streamer, being in the virtual insanity that Dr. Joshua Lederberg wrote about and predicted to come true in order to execute these national security agendas? So I don't know if Haz al-Din Ali Hamoud is a scripted national security actor like his friend Jackson, but he is, at the bare minimum, he is an unwitting actor, an unwitting participant in this national security theater. Jackson is certainly scripted, and you're going to see it. But so when Danny Shaw, what happened? I'll just say briefly, Danny Shaw was attacking me and saying that, I'm wrong about Haiti and barbecue is a mass murderer, this guy who I'd done the documentary about. And so I reached out to Haz al-Din Ali Hamoud, And I said, hey man, this guy's attacking me. You're this idiot. I can't believe you have this guy. I'm thinking, I can't believe you have this guy on in your leadership or whatever, as your deputy foreign secretary, whatever the position is, under Chris Halali was his position. But okay, you guys are just naive and you're probably going to get burned because of it. And I'm warning you. And Haas was very, very slow to respond. Oh. Now, I pressed the issue and finally it took several months for them to arrange a private debate. I thought, okay, let's do a private debate. Now, in that private debate, Danny was humiliated in front of his leadership. It was myself and Kim Ives, my Haiti Liberté colleague, and Haas Ali, same person, and Kyle Pettis, and then Danny Shaw. And Danny Shaw made his presentation, and it was not just pathetic. Those guys were like, Kyle Pettis was like chain smoking cigarettes as he always does, and just losing it, realizing that Danny Shaw was a monumental fraud. And so Danny Shaw ended up coming out with gun running accusations against us, saying that in that meeting, he came up with a number of things. He said, well, Dan and Cam were trying to recruit to get weapons to Haiti, as if Haiti is not awash in weapons. It was the stupidest claim possible. And then he said, oh, Haas is this wannabe warlord who wants to get weapons to Haiti. And, it was totally contradictory and nonsensical. Excuse me, take a drink. So this stupid theory, or these stupid claims that he comes out with what was obvious intent to get a federal investigation going into myself, or maybe get me and Kim killed, as we were doing work on the ground in Haiti in relatively dangerous zones. I'm not trying to pump myself up here. I'm just saying, being on the ground and having light color skin, we stick out like sore thumbs. And so Danny Shaw, who the ACP naively, maybe it wasn't naive, maybe it was intentional, and this whole thing was intended to target me and target Kim. The ACP welcomed him in. And when it all came out, then the ACP, I'll just show it. I'm just going to show it. Let's see. The ACP and Midwestern Marks. Once I went to New York City and met with Kyle Pettis and Eddie, what is his name? Eddie Smith. Well, Kyle Pettis managed to get a recording of Danny Shaw admitting that he made the whole thing up. And I wrote an article about it, which is here. Oh, shit, I don't have there we go. I wrote an article about it, which is right here, and exposing the whole thing. And there was a recording, and we published the recording of Danny admitting at a bar that he had lied about it and that he just wanted to take us out and this kind of thing. Now, who would want to take Kim and I out? The national security state, of course. So I don't know. Did the American Communist Party have a witting role in this? Did Haas have a witting role in trying to get a federal investigation opened into me, or maybe get me killed? I've only recently considered that. Or maybe they just wanted to draw me into the Communist Party, because I had some of them messaging me saying, are you going to join? I had breakfast with Kyle Pettis in Brooklyn. I bought him breakfast, and I thought about, maybe I should join. Maybe these guys are the real deal. Maybe they're doing something legit. And I was like, I don't feel it. Besides, I don't really have time. I'm a journalist. It's better for me to be on the outside. And I was right. Now here's Eddie Smith, an APC executive, apologizing to me. We at Midwestern Marks, which is kind of their organization that joined with Haas and whatever, his group to make the ACP, whatever. We at Midwestern Marks would like to apologize for ever platforming Danny's attacks on you over Haiti. I now have a clearer picture of what the situation really is. Yourself and Kim are truly courageous journalists. Danny weaponized my friendship and his vendetta against you. Eddie made Danny into a TikTok star where to this day, Danny is still spreading bullshit propaganda on behalf of mercenaries who are killing Haitians. Yeah, I'm pissed about that. It's not just apologize to me, Eddie. It's apologize to Haitians. And I was generous, and I said, we appreciate it and understand that building a party involves growing pains and gaining experience. Keep up the good work, and we'll all be stronger and wiser from this. Yes, and now Eddie says that I'm crazy. I've had a psychological break. Eddie's a lot of muscle, not a lot of brains, not a lot of integrity. Kyle Pettis, thank you, Dan, for a comprehensive breakdown of what happened. Greatly appreciated our conversation in November. Yada, yada, yada. As we discussed in the meeting, Danny's slander has had real-world consequences in the form of death threats on the both of you. We now understand your position firsthand. Okay. Well, I was right about Danny Shaw, and I'm right about Jackson Hinkle. You guys are going to see. Let's get to it. So Jackson Hinkle was in... yeah, you're right. I can't remember these guys' names that well because I don't really care that much about them individually, is the truth. I'm not that interested. I have bigger things on my mind. That's what like one of the commenters is saying. It's true. Eddie Smith. Okay, I'll call him Eddie Smith. So Jackson Hinkle was in Iran chanting down with USA. Down with USA. Now, my position... Okay, and this was on 4th of July weekend. Now, what I was doing on 4th of July weekend, I live in Washington, D.C. I waited 2 hours in line with my fellow Americans to go to the National Archives, where I saw the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Emancipation Proclamation. That is a real patriotic act. Jackson Hinkle, the leader of the American Communist Party, or a leader of the American Communist Party, who claims to be working on behalf of the United States to I don't know, free the U.S. from tyranny, was saying, down with the USA in Iran. Now, had Jackson said, down with U.S. imperialism, well, that'd be cool. I'd be like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Had he said, down with the U.S. war machine, down with there are any number of things he could have said. Down with the USA. Well, that is precisely what is going on right now, thanks to the theater that he is part of. These agendas that are being enacted behind Jackson's little theater. It's not even Jackson's theater. Again, Jackson is just a tiny little part. Okay. And here's Jackson, of course, was talked about in the media all over. Down with USA and Al Jazeera, the Qatari outlet, the Times, the MAGA communists chanting down with USA. Now, what better way to alienate Americans, his fellow Americans, American patriots, than by chanting down with the USA? How is the American Communist Party going to reach the masses when it has, according to Haas, Aldin, Ali Hamoud, 1,000 people across the country? Hey, it's not easy to organize 1,000 people. That's something, but that's just the start if you're trying to build a revolutionary party. chanting "Down with USA" and getting maximum exposure is the most alienating shit possible. And the only explanation is that it is intentionally alienating. The same thing the PSL does with all the stupid trans agenda to appeal to upper middle class college graduates and alienate the real working class, which would be the vehicle for revolution. The people who are being destroyed by the opioid epidemic, the mass poisoning of America that is destroying the American working class. That is who they are alienating while being silent about the 200 people every day die of opioid poisoning every day this year. In 2022, it was 300 people. I meant to show this before. I'm going to show a little more about the real agenda behind Jackson Hinkle, behind what's going on here. So you can understand, because Haas and Jackson and all these guys claim to be these revolutionary theorists interpreting everything that's going on in the world and from their basement on a computer. Well, they never actually venture outside. They don't go to Haiti. They don't go to the ground in Gaza. They don't do shit. They live online in the virtual insanity and think that it's reality. Haz Aldin says that, well, Dan, you're just a Gen Xer who doesn't understand how the culture is shifted. One thing, I'm not Gen X. I'm a few years younger than Gen X. But I am, yes, significantly older than your recently developed child brain. Social media came about when I was basically mostly grown. When I was, I don't know, maybe 12, 13, 14 is when AOL Instant Messenger, for example, appeared, and MySpace and those kinds of things. And those were the early versions of social media. I got a cell phone when I was in high school, just a flip phone that I would, use sometimes after school. So my parents knew where I was, or my parents or my friends could call me or things like that. Social media, Facebook appeared when I was in college. Now, I thank God every day that I was not subjected to that growing up, because everybody knows the damage that social media does to young people. And for Haz and Jackson and Eddie, those guys who are all in their 20s, whose brains have barely finished developing, if at all, their entire adolescence was shaped by these things, by these screens, where, as Jonathan Cooey explains frequently, it's not social media. It's not billionaires controlling a public space, a public forum. These are military intelligence simulations. That's what social media is. And these guys, because since they were children, were raised thinking that it's real, they really struggle to understand that it's not real. So I think what Jonathan Cooey presents, which I'm going to show on a daily basis, near a weekly basis, they are incapable of understanding. They can't understand it because they are social media retarded. And I don't use the word retarded in a reactionary way where I'm making fun of people who have mental learning disabilities. I use it in the way that Jonathan Cooey uses it. Use of social media, particularly for young people, children, developing brains, makes them retarded. A special kind of retardation. And so if all these people in the account, in my YouTube chat attacking me are even real, they suffer from the same malady. They grew up thinking that Twitter's real. They think that Elon Musk is a billionaire who saved free speech. You know? Who else thinks that? Let's see. Who else thinks that?
Elon fully understands just how much of a war he's getting himself into with these satanic people.
Yes, no, fully.
That's Elon Musk's father that Jackson Hinkle was interviewing. I'm not even getting to the evidence yet. I'm just giving analysis before I get into the evidence.
You know, he's been threatened.
One thing that I've never really understood with Elon, because I agree with him on almost everything, and I think he is doing such great work.
It's just terrible. On the other hand, these Hamas people have taken hostages and killed them, women and children, and killed them. I don't get it. You know, I'm not happy with anything I see there. As far as South Africa is concerned, I would call it genocide.
So Jackson just nodded along to that. He spoke, I guess, like pro-Palestine or something, but interviewing Elon Musk's father, well, he just says that retarded stuff.
The blacks are calling for the white people to leave South Africa and go back to where they came from. So in other words, no police to help stop that. Nothing. You're on your own. So if you're a farmer here in this country, you sit every day with your gun on your lap, your rifle next to you, your wife, children, all doing the same thing. And that's how you have to live. And I had a farm. I lived like that. And in my case, I was at my home one evening when...
I'm just fast forwarding through this stupid stuff.
It didn't succeed with you. Thank God.
And pretty well.
Well, Mr. Musk, I don't want to keep you too long. I know you're a busy man and you just got back from the U.S., as you said, so you need some rest and you need to enjoy that South African good weather. I hope it's good weather today. But thank you so much for joining me. It's a real honor. It's a real privilege. Like I said, I don't know where I'd be without Elon saving X.
Elon saved X. Elon gave us free speech. The military contractor Elon, who's not a real person either, who's not running the show. Just like Jackson, Elon Musk, just like Has, none of them can say anything remotely profound. They're not real people. That's why. How do you get access to Elon Musk's father unless you're one of them? That's what Jackson Hinkle is. Again, I'm just giving backstory here. I haven't even gotten to the evidence. I'm kind of just having fun. Okay. I want to show you a little bit more of the real agenda behind this theater. Now, something you will have never heard about if you watch, let's see, I move myself over there. There we go, I'm out of the way. Okay. I would bet that Jackson has, none of these guys know what Lazard is. Have they ever heard of Lazard? Probably not. I've never seen them talk about Lazard. Well, here's Lazard's website. Let's just read about what Lazard is. Just these two little paragraphs. Founded in 1848, Lazard is the preeminent financial advisory and asset management firm with operations in North and South America, Europe and the Middle East, Asia, and Australia. Lazard provides advice on mergers and acquisitions, capital markets and capital solutions, restructuring and liability management, geopolitics, and other strategic matters, as well as asset management and investment solutions to institutions, corporations, governments, partnerships, family offices, and high net worth individuals. During our more than 175-year history, we have built a global network of relationships with key decision makers in business, government, and investing institutions. We have deep local knowledge from our well-established operations in each market, which we pair with broad global perspective, serving clients with multinational resources. This is the ruling class, the global ruling class, the supranational, transnational, whatever you want to call it, ruling class. Lazard is a perfect example of it. Lazard, published this paper in March 2024 called India Set to Take Center Stage. Just read a little bit from this. India can be characterized by its remarkable diversity, making one of the most vibrant economies in emerging markets. Overtaking China to become the world's most populous country in 2023 makes a compelling case for more Indian investment and opportunities over the next decade. However, we'll just you get how huge Lazard is. Lazard, the current CEO, is Peter Orszag, the former Obama administration director of Office of Management and Budget. Okay? That's how influential. The guy who was managing Obama's budget, saying where the money's going to go. Obama was just an actor. Those guys are making the real moves, whatever's behind them. Okay, back to the paper here. However, there remain risks to India's growth outlook, one of which is a worsening of geopolitical risk. In the Middle East, Iran-backed Houthis have attacked vessels passing through vital shipping lanes in the Red Sea and even deep in the Indian Ocean. After disruptions already caused by the pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine war, escalating tensions in the Middle East may jeopardize supply chains, increase shipping costs, and weaken economic output once again, pushing commodity and food prices higher and renewing inflation concerns. As India largely relies on imports for its energy needs, the country's fiscal stability may be strained. So the threat that Lazard identifies to India becoming the platform or the conduit for the ruling class's future is, according to this, Iran-backed Houthis, aka the Axis of Resistance, aka Iran, aka Hezbollah, the Houthis, Hamas. Those are the impediments to the India, Middle East, Europe corridor that Benjamin Netanyahu was talking about 2 weeks before October 7th. Israel's not even part of the IMEC. He was trying out for it. Israel wants to be, but they don't even need it. They don't need Israel. Israel's just not that important in the grand scheme of things. Shitty little Israel. It's a laboratory. It's useful for certain things. It's useful for testing weapons on Palestinians and developing repression techniques. It's useful for testing transfection, another word Jackson Hinkle and Hazeldine don't know what it means, don't care, will never say it, because they're just shithead scripted actors. Using transfection on Israelis and telling them that, these Pfizer shots are really good for you. This is really going to protect you from this scary novel virus. None of these guys can figure out that the IMEC in India is the real reason for the Iran war. Here is March 4th, 2026. Indian origin venture capitalist Asha Jadeja Motwani said that she was part of a group of 20 friends that met U.S. President Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago the night he chose to cease all negotiations with Iran and begin the war. Feeling humbled that we got 2 hours with President Trump in Mar-a-Lago last night, on a night that will change the history of our planet forever. The president chose to cease all negotiations with Iran and commence the war, with brave Israelis leading the whole operation. The Israelis are just out front. They are the subcontractor. This is for India. But Jackson Hinkle won't talk about India. Those guys don't say shit about this. He's in, it's not even just Jackson. How many of these big influencers, whether Max Blumenthal or Kala Walsh, or any of these people who are in Iran right now doing these solidarity things and playing drums and saying, down with the USA and all this shit, none of them can figure out what is actually happening. None of them can figure out the real geopolitical development going on. And it's because They are on script to say the Epstein files. Who came up with the Epstein files? Rohit Kahana. Where's Rohit Kahana from? Anybody? Anybody got an idea? I'm going to look in the comments. Can any of you gorillas, Hazaldine's little boys, tell me where Rohit Kahana is from? Haz or whoever is using my stream to talk about it. Can you figure out where Rohit Kahana is? Are you allowed to say the word India? You guys don't know what the hell is going on. How can you lead a revolution? You can't even talk about the number one killer of Americans. I once again give tremendous credit to Jonathan J. Cooey of GigaOhm Biological for identifying through his own experience the theater that Jackson Hinkle is a part of. Here's what Cooey had to say about it in his most recent stream.
But the reality is that America is under attack. We are being sabotaged, and the reason why America is so confused as they are, it's a pity. He got a lot of that right. I liked that way that his Italian grandparents won over their neighbors when they first moved to the United States, or his great grandparents. It's a very nice thing to hear. But the reality is that America is under attack. We are being sabotaged, and the reason why America is so confused as they are, that you could hear hours of that confusion on C-SPAN on the 4th of July, is because of what you see behind me. Most of whom are witting participants in a theater that they understand to be almost exclusively false, but also believe that it's a benevolent theater that allows the efficient governance of a country too big for anybody to really understand. I'm very, very sad to be still stuck here with this message, but I have no reason to be as sad as my friend Mark. And so I have no excuse not to be still fighting. And so here I am still fighting this nonsense, this machine. These are podcasters. They're not real people. They are scripted improvisers. They are given a script, but they improvise on it. You know, pretend that you like McDonald's is the kind of script that you get.
Okay. I'm going to elaborate on that a little bit. I mean, I've said again and again, go watch what Jonathan J. Cooey has to say. This graphic that he's put together features many faces that you'll recognize and some that might surprise you, and it's incomplete. It is incomplete. There are many that need to be addressed, and Jackson is one of them. Jackson is another one of these scripted national security actors. This makes Operation Mockingbird look antiquated, like child's play. And Jonathan J. Cooey, GigaOhm Biological, and Mark Kulak, FuseTonic.live, they talk about the sabotage of conservative America a lot, and without a doubt, that is happening. Figures like Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson, this fraudulent MAGA movement, Robert Malone, Nick Fuentes. I mean, there is a laundry list of these national security actors. But progressive America, left-wing America, the left wing of dissidents are sabotaged as well. And they're all on one script. Okay? And that is what Jonathan Cooey has spent years, the last 3+ years, figuring out and exposing. And I'm late to the game. I should have been doing this a long time ago, but I was wrapped up in it. I was on the podcast circuit. I worked for Redacted, thinking that well, at first I thought it was real. It's a good job. And, it's a good journalism job. And I can go, they sent me to Colombia and I did stuff in Haiti and this and that. And I realized this is a hamster wheel. This is making me into one of them. Because what I'm doing in Colombia and what I'm doing in Haiti doesn't get to the central contradiction behind this theater. That can all be subsumed into the theater. And so what I'm doing now, I should have been doing a long time ago. And I did a video apologizing to not only to Kui and to Kulak, that's who I apologize for. I did a live video on my back porch after a restless night. And I just apologized because I don't think we'd be in this situation had I gotten my head right before. But it takes time to disentangle yourself psychologically and financially from this podcast circuit. I had a meager salary, a weekly allowance from Redacted doing this podcast stuff. And so it's hard to break from that. I need to support my family. I have a mortgage to pay. It's not easy to do that. But it's not worth it because it's damaging my country. It's damaging my people. It's damaging the world. So that's what this is really about. This isn't about Jackson Hinkle. Jackson Hinkle is just a little shitty actor in here. Now, Jackson Hinkle had me on his show back in 2021 when I had done this investigation. Jackson Hinkle was just a kind of little starting podcaster at that point. I went on his show. I was working for Mint Press News, which another outlet that left a bad smell on me because there's all kinds of bullshit there too. And I did this but nonetheless, I did this investigation on Israel's role in what was deemed by a court political genocide in Colombia. And I'm proud of this investigation to this day. This is one that stands. And I showed how two Israeli operatives basically working on behalf or in cahoots with the U.S. national security state went to Colombia in the 1980s to advise the president and the president of Colombia at the time, and also train death squads that massacred thousands and thousands of people and continue to this day. And they advised the president to just wipe one of these guys, Rafi Eitan, the Mossad agent, advised the president to wipe out this political party that had the Patriotic Union that had emerged out of a peace agreement with the FARC. So Jackson has me on his show to talk about it. And at that point, I'd just written it. It was all on my fingertips at the forefront of my mind, so I could just rattle it off. And it was a good interview. I did a good job. Now you can't find that interview. It's kind of interesting that, I don't know, Jackson just deleted it to erase his past or whatever. This is all you can find is Dan, what a crappy title. Dan Cohen and Jackson Hinkle discuss U.S. imperialism? Like, what is that? I don't know what that is. Assuming that's that's the stream. That's his Rockfin account. And it's not there. I don't know. Something happened with Rockfin or what. Okay. So Jackson also interviewed me in 2024 about Israel, when I was still talking about Israel. The small fries of this whole geopolitical development taking place. Okay. So now we're going to get to the goods. I've given my my sort of background and my analysis, some of my analysis. So now we're going to get to the goods, and I'm going to show you what exactly I found. I'm going to now expose Jackson Hinkle as a scripted national security actor. This article has been sitting in plain sight since 2017. Actually, pause for 1 second. I'm going to do something real quick. I'll be right back. One of the ways you can tell I'm not really a streamer at heart is because in a moment like that, when nature calls, I would have just said, we're going to take a quick break. That would have been a logical place for a break for me to just say, we're going to take a quick break and I'm going to return and show the evidence of Jackson Hinkle being a national security state actor. But I'm pretty new to this. So, and it's a one-man show. So that's what was happening. Had to go use the facilities. Okay, so now I'm going to expose Jackson Hinkle as a scripted national security actor. This article has been sitting in plain sight for 9 years. And it is called 8 Young Environmentalists Who Are Working to Save the Earth. Who is profiled in this article? A young Jackson Hinkle, 17, San Clemente, California. He's, I guess, an environmentalist at that time, and he began to realize how far-reaching the threats of plastic water bottles are. Plastic water bottles, that's nice. Plastic plastic water bottles are everywhere, and I guess the microplastic thing is real. I don't know. Okay. So here's Jackson. Here's a nice photo of a baby-faced Jackson. Sure, it makes his mom's heart swell when he sees that photo, and that's nice. Jackson was chosen to be a youth delegate at the Washington Youth Summit on the Environment this coming summer in Washington, D.C. Huh. Interesting. I didn't even notice that before. Okay, that's not very relevant. Who knows? Maybe he was recruited then. Here's what's relevant. This article, there are 2 extremely huge pieces, clues, evidence in this article. And nobody, I'm sure many people have seen this article, but no one has figured it out. None of his critics could figure it out. Well, Teen Vogue is the name of this magazine. Teen Vogue. Anybody who know who runs Teen Vogue? I'm gonna look at the comments. Who runs Teen Vogue? Anybody? Many have talked about this already. Somebody says, you're stupid. And many detectives have looked at evidence and not been able to solve the crime. It's all sitting out there in the open. That's what's so brilliant about it. I didn't obtain a secret list. Oh, Jackson Hinkle is CIA. Oh, I'm going to prove it. No, that's not how it works. It's all just sitting out there. You just have to understand what the play is. Thank you, Mojo2679. Bingo! Vogue, Tina Brown. Well, Anna Wintour. Now, I know that because I watched Jonathan Cooey and Mark Kulak. I think Mark Kulak is actually supposed to. It's not so much Cooey. Anna Wintour. Who is Anna Wintour? Anna Wintour is the Vogue editor-in-chief and a huge DNC donor and also British. So here's back in 2012. Anna Wintour orders Obama donors to fall in line Vogue editor-in-chief Anna Wintour is using her reputation as a demanding fashion editrix to raise money for president. My God, look at her. She looks scary. Hold on. Okay. Let's resume. Vogue editor-in-chief Anna Wintour is using her reputation as a demanding fashion editrix to raise money for President Barack Obama. On Sunday, Miss Wintour sent an email with the subject line, "I take deadlines seriously," reminding Obama supporters of the contest for donors to win a chance to attend Sarah Jessica Parker's fundraiser for the president this month. Wow. Keep going. Anna Wintour. In April 2014, Anna Wintour brings former DNC finance director to Vogue. Sounds like all that time and money Anna Wintour spent raising money for Barack Obama is still paying off. Anna Wintour may have eschewed politics for Vogue and Condé Nast for now, but that doesn't mean she can't bring politics to Vogue. So yes, Vogue, Teen Vogue, which is part of Vogue, is run by the DNC. Why is the DNC, this DNC political outlet, promoting this kid, Jackson Hinkle, this nice young boy? Look at that baby face, not a hair on it. I like the tough, grizzled, muscle-bound Jackson now, who's really sticking it to the man at the ripe old age of 26. Who else had their career kicked off at Vogue? One, Candace Owens. Candace Owens, where's Vogue? After leaving college, she worked as an intern for Vogue in New York City. So she worked for Candace Owens, who magically transformed to a conservative overnight and then said she doesn't care about white supremacy and racism. She's also was in Vogue. Candace Owens, who was constantly promoted by Jackson Hinkle. Candace Owens, who I exposed as a DNC operative here. Well, frankly, I did not expose that. I'll correct that. Mark Kulak, over the last 6 months, has done devastating research showing that, like Jackson, she was recruited as a high school student by Jesse Jackson. I found this video showing 2015 when Candace Owens, there in front of a green screen, was dancing in a photo shoot with, who's that girl on the left? Zoe Weiner, the daughter of DNC merchandise king and mega donor Mark Weiner. Another name you are not supposed to hear about, but thanks to Mark Kulak, I know about, but will definitely never be mentioned by Jackson Hinkle, or has, and frankly will never be mentioned by Nick Fuentes, because he's one of these child actors too, recruited since high school. These are like kids who were recruited into this deadly game, and they're on script, and it's just going to go as long as it has to. And if they dare say, I want out, I don't know what happens to them. They just got to stay on script. So I'm going to play the sound. It's good. So I found this video on the Instagram of... Okay, so firstly, let me say, this is the red circle. That's on Zoe Weiner, daughter of DNC merchandise king powerhouse, the guy who has worked with the Clintons since the 1970s on the Carter campaign. Thank you, Mark Kulak, once again of Housatonic Live, and made a fortune because he was given the rights to sell all of the DNC and Democratic Party candidate merchandise for years and became extremely wealthy in the state of Rhode Island, a major political player who he was eulogized as a guy who could get you Super Bowl tickets, get your kid into Georgetown, whatever you needed. Mark was the nicest guy in the world, if you're a Democrat, and he could do it. And so he set up his daughter and Candace Owens with an ultra high expensive studio in New York to film this video for their project Degree 180 and what's the other thing called? Degree 180 and her doxing project, which suddenly escapes my memory. I can't think of it. Anyway, Degree 180. Now, this was filmed. I found this on the Instagram. Here, I'll just show it. Oh, that's the wrong one. No. Well, I'll show it here. I found this on the Instagram of an account named Momo_NYC. This is August 5th, 2015. You can see same time that on the Degree 180, Candace Owens, their site, there's the same photo, so you can confirm it there. Okay. Now, who is this Instagram account belong? Who does that belong to? Who is Momo_NYC? Well, that guy is Alaa Benchzey, whatever, this Egyptian born in Egypt who now is working for the Secret Service. He is the full-time lead audiovisual production specialist for the U.S. Secret Service. Seems shady. He was the director of video production for Bravo Media for 9 years. And now he works for the Secret Service. That's the guy who filmed Jackson Hinkle's buddy, Candace. Okay. Now, this is kind of a side. I want to show you how dangerous this work that Mark Kulak, first and foremost, has been doing, but also me, because I have 350,000 followers. Mark is extremely censored, extremely marginalized, and if they successfully just censor Mark into oblivion as he figures out what's going on, and same with Jonathan J. Cooey, as they figure out what is actually going on behind this theater, they just censor them into oblivion. Well, they got to make sure that no journalist gets any reach who sees their work and is like, wait a minute. Okay. Now, I posted this video on June 4th, and I included, I edited in the circle on her face, Zoe Weiner's face, and then I showed her photos with Hillary Clinton. She has a bunch of photos all over Instagram, which you can go look at right now. Still, it's open with Hillary Clinton. And there they are dancing. Okay? So notice, there's a break in there. The music continues, but I just put those photos over it. You have Lionel Media saying, that's not her. That's not her. Lionel Media who talks like this. That's not Candace Owens. And it definitely is. And all he does is promote Candace Owens. But then you have this account, Cinema Shogun, I've never even heard of, who says Candace Owens is a failed music video groupie. He took my video that I found. You can see uncaptured media right on there, right? Hey, I can even zoom in. He took it and watch what he did. cut out the section showing she's connected to the Clintons, showing who Zoe Weiner is. See the time there? Watch. He cut that out. And then he says, Candace Owens is a failed music video groupie. Most people have no idea about this because she tried to scrub all evidence of it off the internet. But as you can see, she was horrible at it. Candace was trying to do anything for fame before being brought on as a DEI hire for TPUSA and the Daily Wire. Shame on them both for cleaning her up and giving her a script to read so they could convince us that she's anything other than what we see in the video below. So this account, Cinema Shogun, is scripted to take my work, cut out the relevant portions, and just say Candace Owens is a failed music video groupie. Candace Owens has a fake opposition because she is a national security actor. Jackson Hinkle has fake opposition. All these people saying, oh, Jackson's a fed, but they can't get anywhere. They're probably fake too. That's how it works. They have people leading you into dead ends. That's how it works. That's how sophisticated this national security theater is. And I said it. So look, this guy, Cinema Shogun, has 37.4 thousand followers. Hey, that's not bad. I have 348.5 thousand followers. He got 347,000 retweets, 1.5 thousand likes, 253,000 impressions, and my response saying that he stole it got 8 retweets and 33 likes and 6,385 impressions. I posted to him that he stole it. Do you think I'm suppressed on social media? Wait, Jackson Hinkle says that Elon Musk, he freed social media, he freed X, he gave us free speech. Starting to see how this game is played, how this game works, how this national security theater operates? It's fake. And you can't get through it. That's why, yes, I've been adopting the message of Jonathan J. Cooey. The only way out is to delete. And inevitably, if you use these social media simulations, you will adopt the assumptions that are put in front of you. You will think that, oh, Jackson Hinkle's in Iran saying down with USA. He must be a real guy. He's really sticking it to him. The Iranians had him there. He went to Yemen. He went to China. He lives in Russia, and he says he can't come back. He's in exile. Oh, yeah, for sure, man. I don't know. Haas went with him. They went to Lebanon to Nasrallah's funeral. Haas came back. And you know what? Maybe if Jackson did come back, they'd stop him. And they'd take him to, like, I don't know, Wendy's or something or whatever. They'd take him in the back and give him a, hang out for a while. And then he'd come out and say, oh, they interrogated me. They investigated me. They stopped. Oh, I'm persecuted. So here's another image that, this is another image that, another incident that, okay, this is slightly out of order. I don't know. Let's go back. Here's we're back to the article that has these spectacular pieces of evidence. So first we learn that Teen Vogue, which featured Jackson Hinkle, is just a DNC outlet. Maybe it's more than DNC. Maybe I'm reducing it to simply DNC. That it's really an outlet of this transnational ruling class. Anna Wintour is British. Anglo imperialism. Anybody? Okay. So this is where now you're really gonna see. So now you got a nice taste. You had the appetizer. Now it's time for the main course, folks. Now, this is so good. The author of this piece, her name is Helena Hovitz. Okay? Helena Hovitz is an author. Not only does she write articles, but she also wrote a book. It's called After 9/11, One Girl's Journey Through Darkness to a New Beginning. It was published in September 2016 by Arcade Skyhorse Publishing. Now, if you're a follower of Jackson or Hinkle or basically anyone else other than Mark Kulak and Jonathan J. Cooey, a follower, if you consume, unless you consume their media, you're probably not going to understand the relevance of Skyhorse Publishing. And most people will just overlook that because they don't know how to interpret the evidence. So I'm going to look at the comments. Who can tell me what is relevant about Skyhorse Publishing? I know who can't tell me. Haz, Ali Hamoud, Eddie, those guys have no idea what Skyhorse Publishing is. Anybody? Bueller. I just love that the comments. What did they find on your hard drive? Anybody? No. Okay. Nobody knows what Skyhorse Publishing is. That is remarkable. Oh, all right. One guy. I've heard of Skyhorse Publishing. They've published some RFK Jr. books and I think some of Dan Kovalick's books. Yes. No shade to Dan Kovalick. I think Dan Kovalick is one of the sweetest guys out there. I have nothing but love for him. I think he just doesn't know what Skyhorse is, what he got involved with his books. Okay. All right. Skyhorse Publishing. Here's her book on Skyhorse's website. Skyhorse Publishing 100% is a national security operation. It's the creation of the fraudulent Maha movement. And it is a vehicle for the Trump phenomenon, for the Bannon phenomenon. You're going to see. Okay, let's just... Skyhorse Publishing published Helena Hovitz's book. Helena Hovitz, who wrote the first article promoting Jackson Hinkle as a very important young environmentalist concerned about plastic pollution in Southern California. Babyface Jackson there. Her book about 9/11, that's a whole nother thing is just kind of beyond the scope of what I'm going to get into, because you can tell me, or you can tell there's a lot of information I'm presenting here. Now, I think she's scripted to maintain the narrative about 9/11, which Mark Kulak, again, has done tremendous work on, and no one else has even come close. And just go on Mark Kulak's website and look up Joshua Lederberg 9/11 Biotruth, and you'll start to understand. Just going to say that. I don't have time to get into it right now. I don't want to digress too much from the matter at hand. Getting a bit parched. Okay. One more. Anybody who's watching see the most kind of revealing part. After 9/11, one girl's journey through darkness to a new beginning. Hey, look at this nice little blurb she got from a certain Hillary Rodham Clinton in a letter to Helena Hovitz. How does this author who profiled Jackson Hinkle in Anna Wintour DNC super donor, her magazine, how does she know Hillary Clinton? You are a herald for your generation. Thank you for using your voice to help us. I'm going to try to do a Hillary Clinton voice. You are a herald for your generation. Thank you for using your voice to help us make sense of that dark day and forge a new beginning. Can we just drone him? Jackson Hinkle is a very nice young boy. Thank you for writing that article about him. Okay. After 9/11. Here's another Skyhorse author. I'm just going to take you through some of their catalog. It's absolutely hilarious. Skyhorse Publishing published Gender Madness from Ollie London, the British guy who transitioned to try to become a Korean woman to be a K-pop star before going anti-woke. And is now a pro-Israel influencer. When the whole Gaza slaughter started, he was going to Israel to be an influencer, meeting. He was one of like Netanyahu's little finger puppets, or whatever, Skyhorse's finger puppets. I don't know. Here's a little bit more of their catalog. I'm going to highlight some specific ones. We have Melania's memoirs. Well, that's really important. It seems like a really real book. Here's the Freedom Manifesto from Maria Corina Machado. Maria Corina Machado, who I thought Jackson Hinkle is supposed to be against, but turns out they're just from the same machine. The Venezuelan opposition leader who goes all the way back to meeting with George Bush in the White House. George W. How come nobody figured this out? RFK's book, The Real Anthony Fauci. Oh, it's going to keep getting good. Unscripted by Cheryl Hines, husband of the scripted actor, the scripted 14-year recovering drug addict, RFK Jr. War from Dr. Robert Malone and his wife, Jill Malone. Old friends of Peter Hotez, Dr. Peter Hotez. Let's look at a few more good ones. Time to Get Tough. Make America Great Again. Donald J. Trump and Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon has an entire genre, an entire line in Skyhorse called War Room Books. America's 100 Years War. How to Win Against Communism. Bannon. American Street Fighter. Bannon, always the rebel. Jackson Hinkle, always the rebel. Bannon, always the rebel. The Anti-Globalist Manifesto. Naomi Wolf, the former, I think she was a former advisor to Al Gore, who got paid like $15,000 a month to say nothing. Biden crime family from Giuliani. The Agenda on Humans. The Secret History of Communist Revolutions from Jack Posobiec and Steve Bannon. Embracing Communist China from Steve Bannon, Bradley Thayer. These guys are key proponents of seeding the lab leak nonsense narrative, which used the opioid mass murder in America to claim that there was a novel virus. In 2020, there was an extreme increase of an already record amount of opioid deaths in the United States. And they use that to say that there's a scary virus going around. That's what Steve Bannon did, and Jackson Hinkle can't figure that out. Hazaldine can't figure that out. I didn't figure it out until Mark Kulak pointed it out, and Mark Kulak pointed it out in 2022 and got censored off of YouTube for it. That's why Mark Kulak cannot grow beyond his 2,000 followers on YouTube, because he is probably the most censored man in America. How can you claim Jackson Hinkle claims he's censored? He has hundreds of thousands of followers on multiple YouTube channels. He has like 3.8 million followers on X. Thank you, Elon Musk. And he says he's under attack and he's censored. Nick Fuentes says the same thing. It's all just nonsense. Notice that Nick Fuentes and his little troll army, which is also probably just a bunch of Indians, they're not going to pick up on any of this stuff. Because if they did, it would just expose that they're fake too. Nick Fuentes and Jackson Hinkle are the same. They're both actors in the theater pretending to fight. That's why they always tweet about killing each other. Nick Fuentes says that Trump should just drone Jackson, and Jackson says that Nick should just off himself because he's a closeted gay man. Steve Bannon, the Skyhorse Publishing author, here's what he was saying on Indian television. Here's what you get a sense of. Remember that Lazard stuff I was showing about India taking center stage? Let's just go back to that for a second. India set to take center stage, March 2024. Here's April 2020, when Americans were being murdered with supplemental oxygen. Here's what Steve Bannon was saying.
This is why India is the key that picks the lock. India is the most important. That's why this whole Indo-Pacific strategy. But now India takes its rightful place as really the central part of this strategy to kind of basically stop the Chinese Communist Party in Beijing from controlling the Eurasian landmass.
He just gave away the game right there on Indian TV. Steve Bannon, who says that one of his favorite books is the Gita, the Hindu holy text. Steve Bannon, who also says that he believes in the Judeo-Christian tradition. Judeo-Christian, which is basically monotheism, even though both of those are basically monotheistic religions. And he always talks about that. But then he also says that one of his favorite books is the Gita of Hinduism, which is a polytheistic religion. You can believe in whatever you want, but those are completely incompatible. Those ideas, those are at odds. Let's watch that again.
That picks the lock in France and the rest of Europe. This is why India is the key that picks the lock. India is the most important. That's why this whole
India is the most important, says former Goldman Sachs banker and Trump strategist Steve Bannon, who is a fake conservative, who is leading the effort to sabotage America by pretending to be conservative when he's just a banker. He's just a banker.
Pacific strategy, but now India takes its rightful place as really the central part of this strategy to kind of basically stop the Chinese Communist Party in Beijing from controlling the Eurasian landmass. That's clearly what they're trying to do.
So India is supposed to be the central part that replaces China to control the Eurasian landmass. Wow. Has the ACP figured that out? No, the ACP is like, we're just anticipating the destruction of America, the collapse of America, because it's already happened. And that's when we're going to have a revolution. Stupid accelerationist thinking. So fundamentally, ACP leadership is on board with Bannon. Bannon, who in February 2020 was saying that there's a scary virus coming from communist China, from the Wuhan lab, while the Trump administration was collaborating with India to flood America's streets and working class communities and all over the place with fentanyl, while blaming China for that fentanyl to kill the working class, to kill Americans like Mark Kulak's stepson, and claim it was a deadly novel virus that came from China.
They're trying to use one belt, one road, just, make.
And the ACP can't figure that out because they are in the simulation. They are part of the virtual insanity that has living in his basement, streaming from a basement with no connection to the working class reality. I'm guessing that maybe Eddie might know someone or some families who are impacted by the opioid crisis. I've almost lost family members to the opioid crisis. Fortunately, there was an intervention, And it was just through, and it's not because they're drug addicts or they were experimenting, which does happen, but just because they came into contact with the medical system. Back to Skyhorse. Oh, look. India by Shashi Tharoor. The man who is one of the most influential or out front figures in India and who was the number 2 at the United Nations. And look, there's Tulsi Gabbard, Jackson's old buddy, with Shashi Tharoor in India as Director of National Intelligence. Tulsi Gabbard herself has a book in Skyhorse Publishing. You know, Tulsi Gabbard, who says, oh, the virus came from the Wuhan lab, another fake patriot who is covering up the opioid crisis that kills 200 people today. 200 Americans will die of opioids today. I criticize the ACP for that. I'll do some self-criticism here. It was not at the forefront of my mind. My priorities were all mixed up because I was using social media thinking that I was getting somewhere. Can the ACP criticize? Can they start to emphasize as their number one priority the opioid crisis? Or are they still going to chant down with USA as opioids are making the USA go down? Because our ruling class is murdering the working class. Here's Tulsi Gabbard in India gifting her copy of the Hindu holy text, the Gita, to none other than Modi. Modi, who's leads the Hindu nationalist Hindutva party and is very close with Trump and Bannon. And, you know, the progressive, this is back in 2014, well before Tulsi was taking pictures with surfing with Jackson. These aren't the best pictures, but I believe that's Tulsi, and there's Jackson. They're just surfing together, being environmentalists. And then, of course, you have Tulsi Gabbard endorsed by Jackson Hinkle. Terrific choice, President Trump. Congrats to former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard on being named Director of National Intelligence. Terrific choice. Another tweet. The decision to appoint Tulsi Gabbard and Matt Gaetz was historic. Great move for peace and a death blow to many cretins in the deep state. What is the deep state, Jackson? What is the deep state? How did that appointment turn out, Jackson? Why don't you just say you were wrong? Because when you're a national security actor on a script, you never admit you were wrong. You never admit it. You just keep going with the next tweet and the next tweet. And you contradict yourself as many times as you want, and it doesn't matter. And when you use social media and think this stuff is real, you're like a goldfish in a little bowl just going around and bink, bink, bink. Snap out of it, people. Got to. Here's Tulsi Jackson in March 2022 saying, Tulsi Gabbard is correct about the dangerous pathogens held in Ukrainian biolabs. Now, I was on the same, unwittingly on the same script at that point too. Maybe it was justified for Russia to defend itself from NATO encroachment. There's a real argument to be had there. But the Ukrainian biolab story is nonsense. And look what Jackson says. Does he say anything about it like, here's why? Here's why Tulsi Gabbard is correct. He just says, Tulsi Gabbard is correct about the dangerous pathogens held in Ukrainian biolabs. So is Tucker Carlson. So is The WHO. Wade Jackson is supposed to be against globalism, but he's endorsing the World Health Organization. So is the U.S. Department of Defense, which admitted to funding these labs and storing dangerous pathogens from bioweapons programs for research purposes. Yes, you can find video of me interviewing Scott Ritter. In fact, Mark Kulak showed that video recently. I was naive. I apologize for that. I was unwittingly part of the script. Jackson was not unwitting. He doesn't know anything about this stuff. He can't tell you that RNA can't pandemic. He will never tell you that. He doesn't even know what that means. Neither does Has. Neither do any of these people. And yes, those are challenging concepts. But I've been saying for I don't even know how long, months and months and year more, watch Jonathan Cooey and he will break this stuff down. But we just get Tulsi Gabbard is correct about the dangerous pathogens held in Ukrainian biolabs. And that narrative was used to egg on Russia into Ukraine. And I don't know what's going to happen with Russia and Ukraine. Scott Ritter, who's definitely part of this too, has been saying, since the very beginning of the special military operation, that Russia's going to win in like 2 weeks and they're going to get Zelensky and they're going to get him. And he's been saying it nonstop. And it's obvious that it's bullshit. And Jackson and Ritter are all part of this. This isn't naive. This is scripted. I would never say just Tulsi Gabbard is correct. I would have said, here's why. There's no argument here. It's just, I doubt Jackson Hinkle writes most of his own tweets. His Twitter is running 24 hours a day. It's constant. He's got a cameraman following him around. He's got people filming him all the time in Iran, wherever he, like, he is Chuck E. Cheese. The pizza is being made, but he's not, the guy in the mouse suit isn't making it. He's not writing all those tweets. Here's Jackson's old buddy, Tulsi Gabbard, as Director of National Intelligence in, when is this? Early 2025, I want to say March. Let's see if we can.
I'm a child.
Oh, come on, why? March 18th, 2025, first months of the Trump administration. And Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence and former surfing buddy of Jackson Hinkle, is in India. Now, why would a Director of National Intelligence go to India and do public speeches? That's a diplomatic role. Wouldn't Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, do that? Because of her ties to India. Because she is part of some Hindu Hare Krishna Science of Identity Foundation offshoot strange thing, and is fundamentally loyal to whatever this machine is between India and the UN and NATO. And I don't know exactly what it is. I don't have all the answers, but I know it's not what the ACP is saying. Jonathan Edward Gibson. Dude, you need to be Giga Ohm and Housatonic's frontman translating to folks. Jonathan's low noise is full of visual bling and loose agendas. Be the public journalist. Yeah, I'm trying to get their message out. So I appreciate that message, Jonathan Edward Gibson. There's some damaged trust. I think those guys came to, because I was not making the progress I needed to as I was transitioning out of the podcast circuit financially and psychologically. I think they came to think that I was not real. That's why Cooey even called me a fraud recently. And Eddie has been, promoting that clip. He clipped it out. Even after months and months that I was trying to get the ACP, a year ago, I bet. I don't know. I'd have to look at the exact dates. I'd have to see when, but I've been trying to get those guys to look at the work of Jonathan J. Cooey of Giga Ohm Biological for months. and they just blew me off. They'd give me like a thumbs up in the chat that I have with them, and they just ignore it. So I tried with the ACP. I tried to engage them, but I just saw them saying stupid stuff publicly, and I became more and more suspicious of Jackson, that maybe this guy's not what he is, what I thought. And then when he said down with USA on the 250th anniversary of the founding of our country, well, he claims to be a patriot. That was it. And I was like, okay. And then the next day, I was like, okay, I'm going to research. And I figured it out real fast. Thanks to the framework developed by those two guys, Jonathan J. Cooey, Gig on Biological, Mark Kulak, Houstonic.live. Not in any particular order. Both those guys are absolute essential in their own right. Now, back to the matter at hand. Tulsi Gabbard in March 2025, in some weird diplomatic role, appeared in India at the Raisina dialogue. Here's what she says. Just listen to this. Consider what Steve Bannon said first. Her buddy, Steve Bannon. She's been on Steve Bannon's show. She was meeting with Steve Bannon in 2016. That's how you can see how this network is. Bannon is absolutely one of the, I don't know if he's a daddy, but he's high level in this network, or at least he's one of the higher level visible parts as a former Goldman Sachs banker who's guided Trump's strategy. He's been collaborating with Tulsi Gabbard for a decade, at least. So when he's saying India is going to replace China as the central power to control the Eurasian continent, here's what Tulsi Gabbard says in her nice diplomatic speak.
Child of the Pacific. I was born and raised, first born in American Samoa, raised in Hawaii. I've spent a lot of time throughout my life traveling throughout the Indo-Pacific and working in many different countries. So I'm very familiar with the rich and beautiful cultures, the kindness and hospitality that I've experienced everywhere I've gone, and the rich history within each country that leads to a better understanding of the nuance and complexities that exist within these countries, but also within the relationships in the region. It's a vast and critical region that's not just a geographic space. It is the geopolitical center of gravity for the 21st century.
It is the geopolitical center of gravity for the 21st century. India is, just like Steve Bannon said, just like Lazard, the premier financial institution, the former CEO, the CEO of which is the former head of Office of Management and Budget in the Obama administration, who was put there by Rahm Emanuel, the brother of Ari Emanuel. Ari Emanuel, who was Donald Trump's longtime agent and just held a UFC event on the White House lawn. Do you see? It's one big show. There is no left and right and conservative and progressive and liberal in this machine. It's just one big ruling class show. Like I said, Jackson Hinkle is just one little peon in this machine.
So
Jackson hates Tulsi and Bannon, so what's your point? Oh yeah, just like Jackson hates Nick Fuentes and they fight online and everyone sees it. For sure, man. For sure, that stuff's real. Tulsi Gabbard, who is part of this bizarre science of identity group that, according to the Wall Street Journal, was running a Ponzi scheme. Yes, all these years was running a Ponzi scheme, and some adherents, according to the Wall Street Journal, mixed Chris Butler, the dear leader of this group, call it whatever you will, some adherents mixed Chris Butler's toenail clippings into their meals. Two former followers said it's a sign of devotion. Others used his shoes as prayer totems. Tulsi Gabbard may not even be in control. She may be she may be hypnotized. She was born into this bizarre, just call it a cult. This Hindu offshoot, whatever, cult. Here's another from Skyhorse Publishing. You know, who's one of their primary authors, who still works for Skyhorse to this day, wrote from Ilya Ponomarev, the Ukrainian, "Does Putin have to die?" And I put this on the cover, on the thumbnail of my stream, because Jackson lives in Russia and is a tool of an intelligence operation that is proposing killing Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia. Yep. That's how bad this is. That's how dark this is. What kind of access does he have? I don't know. There's more. Skyhorse Publishing published Robert F. Kennedy's books, including The Wuhan Cover-Up. The Wuhan Cover-Up, I have a copy of it right here, endorsed by Tucker Carlson, who Jackson constantly promotes. Tucker Carlson for president. Because Tucker Carlson, you know, a real upstanding guy who tells the truth. Definitely not a national security operative. This is blurbed by, well, I'll just show you. First, I'll explain. This book is called The Wuhan Cover-Up, and the Terrifying Bioweapons Arm Race by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., published by Children's Health Defense. Now, this book is evidence of a monumental fraud on America and on the world. A malevolent lie. And I'm going to show you where. I even have a sweet camera for this purpose specifically. Let's see if I can get it right here. So in the acknowledgments in the first part of the book, look at that first full paragraph where it says, "This book would not have been possible without the expertise and invaluable insights provided by Jonathan J. Cooey, Ph.D. Jonathan Cooey of Gigaome Biological. That's who I'm talking about. Jonathan Cooey lost his job in 2021 as an academic biologist working at the University of Pittsburgh, and for calling the COVID shots transfections, which is what they were. Another, again, that word transfections you'll never hear outside of unless you actually know what's going on, unless you're paying attention, as I've been saying for I don't know, years. Jonathan Cooey was fired from University of Pittsburgh for saying that the COVID shots are not a new technique or technology, but a long existing one, only used on mice, rabbits, and monkeys. And this biology stuff is not my strength, but as I understand it, in order to it's existed for 20 some years, and it's used in order to get genes to express differently. Again, this is very, very deep water, and it's something that I really want to take the time to understand, but biology is definitely not my strength. Cooey has talked about it a lot. You can go, search his videos. I'm not going to pull one up now, but it's not relevant to the exact point here. What is relevant is when he was fired, the day he was, I don't know if it was the same day, he received 2 phone calls. One from Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, and the other from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And they both said essentially the same thing. I'm recounting from what Cooey says. I should have just pulled up a clip to show, but I'm just going to paraphrase. Cooey received this call from Ron Johnson, Senator Ron Johnson, Wisconsin, and RFK Jr., the current HHS secretary, saying, we want to help you. And he was hired by Kennedy to help write this book. That's why he's listed first in the acknowledgments. Now, in the middle of writing that book, Kennedy asked Cooey to look into something, to investigate something, to explain to him something called infectious clones. In researching the concept of infectious clones, going back to biology books, the basic biology books from a few decades before, Cooey realized that RNA cannot pandemic. In other words, the coronavirus, an RNA virus, cannot pandemic. There was no pandemic. The lab leak narrative that, according to RFK and Skyhorse Publishing and Steve Bannon and all of these people who promoted Jackson Hinkle, the same organization that promoted Jackson Hinkle and that Hillary Clinton is very thankful for, they lied. Why? To try to destroy China. They lied to try to destroy China. Because, as Steve Bannon and Tulsi Gabbard and Lazard explain, India is supposed to replace China as the centerpiece of control over the Eurasian continent. That is the reason for this book. That's one of the big reasons for this book. Yeah, Jackson says the virus was made at Fort Detrick, that's what a lot of Chinese people believe too. It's all part of the mythology. Yes, there are elements in China that are in on this. China is not one thing. China is a huge country with all kinds of factions and elements. And the goal of this, of Steve Bannon, is to destroy the CPC, the Communist Party of China. That's what this is about. That's a big, big, big part of this theater. So maybe if any of these fake people in the chat can respond to where am I not an anti-imperialist anymore? Because they can't admit that Jackson was promoted by the DNC and its transnational machine that's seeking to destroy China from the beginning. And Jackson can't say anything profound. He can't say the word transfection. He can't say that RNA can't pandemic. He definitely can't say that. He can't say what Skyhorse Publishing is. He can't say that Candace Owens is a DNC plant recruited since high school, just like he was, just like Nick Fuentes was. Nick Fuentes, the former Model UN kid. Oh, there's Jackson with Tulsi. Nice. Okay. We still got more. I can keep going for like hours. See, again, it's not that I found the secret document that Jackson is a CIA kid. That what's that stupid movie, Cody? Somebody tweeted at me and I thought it was actually pretty funny. They were trying to like troll me, but I think it's hilarious. Or is it? The Jackson Hinkle is Agent Cody Banks. No, it's not that he's a little secret CIA agent. It's that he's a national security actor out there in the open, and that's the whole illusion. Once the illusion crumbles, then you can understand. And I know that there are people who are going to get this. And you might have to watch this long stream a few times to really get it. And it might take a few months. And something that Dan said that kind of stuck in your craw might kind of digest. And maybe you'll have maybe the ACP leadership, the guys who are real in there, who I think are real, who at least have some integrity, maybe Eddie, Carlos, the Midwestern Marx guys, who I think are well-meaning, but just don't really understand what they've gotten themselves into. Maybe they'll have some questions for Jackson. And, Jackson will just talk like this, this like talk like kind of like a fake tough guy. Even though he's from Orange County? Nobody talks like that in Orange County. Okay. Tony Lyons is the publisher of Skyhorse. He owns Skyhorse Publishing. He is also the president of Maha Action and the American Values 2024, RFK's super PAC. All right? It's going to get real crazy here. I'll just get rid of a couple of these. Whatever. You know what? I'm going to leave the trolls. I'm going to leave you guys because all you're doing is really just kind of proving. I think I'm going to leave you. I don't know. For now. Skyhorse has published books by Senator Rand Paul and Senator Ted Cruz, too. Ooh, that's good. That's good. I'm going to return to that. Okay. Tony Lyons is the owner of Skyhorse Publishing, and he ran RFK's super PAC. All right, that's him. Sorry. Here's another book, another pro Zelensky book in Skyhorse. Okay, let's get there. All right, Tony Lyons. Now, Tony Lyons' PR man is a guy named Trevor Fitzgibbon. Trevor Fitzgibbon was the guy who got me into the Defeat the Mandates rally. He did the Defeat the Mandates rally back in 2022, I think, where all of the fake health freedom movement figures came and spoke in front of, the Lincoln Memorial? And I did a video on it for Mint Press News. Who got me in contact with Trevor Fitzgibbons? Max Blumenthal. Max Blumenthal, who collaborated closely with Jackson Hinkle and Candace Owens to promote the fake Charlie Kirk is killed by Israel story. Charlie Kirk isn't dead. Another one, Mark Kulak figured that out real quick. He said that, and I thought about it for a while. What? Okay. Charlie Kirk was saying that the U.S. should stay out of the India-Pakistan war. He was getting criticized by India and Indian accounts and in the Indian media, and that's why he was taken off the stage. He wasn't killed. They faked his murder. Notice that nobody can figure out to this day, was he murdered by an exploding microphone or this or that or the next thing? Or he wasn't murdered. He was just taken out of the theater. Okay? So Max Blumenthal put me in contact with Trevor Fitzgibbon. I have no idea how Max Blumenthal, son of DNC Hatchet Man, Sidney Blumenthal, again, very close to Clintons, of course. I don't know how Max Blumenthal knew Trevor Fitzgibbon. Trevor Fitzgibbon started messaging after that. He was like, oh man, this is amazing. Come on. Trevor Fitzgibbon loved my video that I did, which was just, I just kind of took things at face value at this thing. It was journalistic, but I didn't know what was going on. I just thought, well, there's some dissidents here and some people pushing back against these mandates, and I was taken in. I can admit I was wrong. I can admit I was taken in. Anyone else? I don't know everything. Does anyone else have integrity? Is anyone else willing to say that? I don't see the ACP guys saying that. Not just about the ACP. I don't see Blumenthal, the Gray Zone, ever saying that. They're publishing, their most popular video ever is with Jeffrey Sachs on COVID origins. Oh man, it's just all one big show. This is my point. You get the idea. Okay, so Trevor Fitzgibbon, I met him there. He was real nice. He started hounding me frequently, trying to get me to write an article debunking these sexual harassment allegations against him. And I was just like, I don't know anything about it. I don't really want anything to do with it. I just don't know. I didn't know what to make of it. He said it was like some shady woman who was trying to take him down, and he was representing WikiLeaks and Assange, and the Assange thing was important. So I figured, well, I guess I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, but I don't know. And Trevor Fitzgibbon's one of them too. Trevor Fitzgibbon, when I was working for, he also told me he represented the government of Venezuela, which is kind of crazy. Trevor Fitzgibbon, when I was working for the show Redacted, I was on vacation with my family in Florida in, I want to say 2020, beginning in 2023 over New Year's. I'd have to look at the dates. He called me and said, "Hey, Dan, can you get this? I got a big story for Redacted. Can you get it on Redacted?" Redacted is very close with Tucker Carlson, also part of this big show. They wanted me to get this lady, Sasha Latapova, on their show because she had a story about how the DOD was controlling the COVID shots or COVID response or something. And I was like, all right, I just sent it to Redacted. She went on. Okay, here is, boom, here's the segment. They did COVID-19 contracts. These are the contracts. These are the documents. See, 99% of the time when people claim to have secret documents, it's fake. That's something I've learned. All that, the evidence you need is just all there out. It's all out there in the open. That's why I'm not saying I have some document showing Jackson Hinkle is a spook. It's just, you just got to understand how to look at the evidence that's there. You have to know what Teen Vogue is. That it's not just a magazine article about environmentalism. Okay. So she goes on Redacted. Bombshell docs reveal COVID-19 cover-up goes straight to the top.
This is intense.
Oh, very intense. See how that manipulative language works? Redacted knows that there was no lab leak because I said it multiple times on their show and I explained how and I told them about Jonathan Cooey and I even showed Jonathan Cooey a clip from a presentation he did talking about it, but they still continue to talk about lab leak. And say it's true to this day. And have CIA whistleblower who knows about COVID origins on. And Tulsi Gabbard, she's dropping the hammer. It's all one big show. Okay? So this woman, Sasha Latapova, her daughter is this child right here. Just look at that. Just look at that. Who else do you see there? So Sasha Latapova, who the fake whistleblower with fake documents that was provided to me by Skyhorse PR man Trevor Fitzgibbon to get on Redacted. Sasha Latapova's daughter is a streamer named Soph. I think she was about 14 years old when she streamed with Nick Fuentes in 2019 and Stephen Bonnell, aka Destiny, about exactly what you see on your screen. I'm not even going to read those words. Who else was streaming with Nick Fuentes right around then? Oh, that's right. Jackson Hinkle. Wow. I'm sure these are all just coincidences. Jackson Hinkle is really an anti-imperialist. He was just, didn't know what was going on then. Okay, if that's the case, spill the beans, Jackson. Tell us, how did you get in contact? I know you were hanging out with Nick Fuentes. That's been reported. What exactly is going on here? How did Helena Hovitz contact you? What's your connection to the DNC, Jackson Hinkle? Oh, Dan Cohen's just, an idiot. When I gave a quick breakdown of this network to Haz al-Din the other night in the group chat I have with them, Haz ended it by saying he wants to fight me, and I get to choose between fighting him and fighting Eddie. That's how stupid this guy is. And he kept calling me nigga. Like it's like a 14-year-old boy who just discovered the word and feels like, I'm smoking my first cigarette and saying nigga. Sasha Latipova in May of 2019, her daughter, this is from Houstonic, has this stuff on his archive, Mark Kulak. In May of 2019, it was reported that police had to conduct an investigation of 14-year-old Sophia after she posted the following comment about Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube. Susan, I've known your address since last summer. I've got a Luger and a mitochondrial disease. I don't care if I live. Why should I care if you live? Why should I care if you live or your children? I just called an Uber. You've got about 7 minutes to draft up a will. I'm coming for you, and it ain't going to be pretty. So her deranged daughter, who was streaming with Jackson Hinkle's then buddy, Nick Fuentes, threatened to kill the CEO of YouTube. Do you see that it's just all one big show? Jackson Hinkle saying down with the USA at the funeral of Ali Khamenei is the same little actor who was streaming with Nick Fuentes, who was streaming with this child about what you see on the screen. And with Destiny. Who else is promoting? Why would Jackson Hinkle on Tucker Carlson? Why was Jackson never did anything? Look, Jackson Hinkle went on Tucker Carlson. At the time I thought, oh, good for him. When I did my documentary about Haiti, my 3-part documentary about Haiti that we made like negative money on, we lost money on, which the ACP hailed. Tucker Carlson plagiarized my documentary. He ran a clip of it on his show and went on to feature the former prime minister of Haiti, another tool of Clinton tool from the Martelly era. He didn't credit me at all. Now, I was just happy that, wow, my video is getting seen, even though it's not credited. That's unfortunate. And I tweeted about it. Oh, Tucker, please. That's my video. Here's the whole documentary. I'd be happy to talk about it. I DM'd his producer, who followed me, interestingly. And she said, oh, okay. Yeah, I'll talk to him about it. And never, ever followed up. On Redacted, I showed that Tucker Carlson had on Li Mengyan, the fake Chinese whistleblower who said that COVID was a bioweapon. Just like Jackson was saying COVID is a bioweapon and Ukrainian biolabs are making bioweapons. And Li Mengyan, who was repeatedly featured on Tucker Carlson's Fox show, was actually said she was a Chinese whistleblower. In fact, she was married in the United States into one of the most prominent families in the biomedical complex. She was fake. Tucker Carlson does not have real people on. Tucker Carlson has fake people on. Yeah, I'm the right way here. Fake people on. Tucker Carlson wants to destroy China. Tucker Carlson's covering up the opioid epidemic. Tucker Carlson is like if a bunch of, I don't know, technocrat Silicon Valley freaks were like, we need to come up with a mockery of what a patriotic middle American would be. That would be Tucker Carlson. His new show is on Tucker on X, Tucker Carlson Network, where he's out hunting with his dogs, talking about, what it's like to be in the country. I don't use my phone. I don't like social media. I don't like any of that stuff. When he's just a longtime DC insider media. I'm trying to bite my tongue here and not use vulgar words. Media plant. Let's just see. Does
thanks so much.
Does Jackson say anything profound here? Hey, maybe he's just going to get his message out. Let's give the most generous interpretation here. Jackson was just taking the message to get taking the opportunity. Somehow he was, given this opportunity. Let's just ignore everything and just see, does he say anything profound? Let's just watch.
In the meantime, we turn to Jackson Hinkle. He's the host of The Dive with Jackson Hinkle on YouTube. He joins us now. Jackson, thanks so much for coming on. So there's something really, look, I understand people are partisan on TV. There's a lot of pressure to take your side. But for Biden to get up there and say the single biggest threat to our country is anyone who opposes me in the coming midterm elections, and the media to nod along, makes you think we've crossed some kind of line.
We have crossed the line, Tucker, and it's so interesting that, anyone in the media today would be saying that they liked what Joe Biden said in that speech because it was a dictator-inspired speech. Not only that, but
Wow, he's a leftist against Biden, just saying the Republican, the fake conservative talking point. That, that lighting from Biden, behind Biden, which was obviously done for this exact reason, so they could say he's a dictator. Jackson really stuck it to him. It was a really revolutionary message there. I'm not going to waste any more time with this nonsense. Oh, look, who else is promoting Jackson Hinkle? And Tucker Carlson for president. What a joke on America. What an absolute joke on America. What a sick joke. Fake conservatives, fake progressives, tools of the banking class that is supranational, that wants to destroy China, that wants to destroy America, and use India to advance the goals set out by Joshua Lederberg in the 1960s and maybe before, and Henry Kissinger. Here's Jimmy Dore. You think Jimmy Dore isn't tight with Steve Bannon? He's had him on a show, and look, Jimmy Dore, this is why Steve Bannon terrifies the establishment.
It's a big mistake for Trump not to include him in his White House.
That's all you need to watch right there. It's a big mistake for Trump not to include Steve Bannon in his White House. Oh, man, because Steve Bannon, he's really a revolutionary. That Goldman Sachs banker is really a revolutionary. Yeah, Jimmy Dore, I've been on his show. I was naive. He's a scripted actor. He's part of this whole thing, the Tulsi Bannon whole machine. And for sure he knows it. In fact, when Jimmy had me on to talk about Haiti. He'd had me on one time I was on a show to talk about Israel early on in the Gaza slaughter. And I was telling him, you got to have this guy, Jonathan Cooey, on. He's the real deal. He's going to expose this whole pandemic thing as nonsense. And I spoke to Jimmy for a while. I had a long conversation with him by phone. I don't know if he'll tell the truth about it. And he had actually done a show in Pittsburgh where Cooey lives. And Cooey went to his show, thinking that Jimmy's like a good, real progressive guy, dissident. And he took a photo with Jimmy Dore and this book, and gifted him a copy of this book for Jimmy to understand that it was a fraudulent book, that it was fake, and that Jonathan J. Cooey of Giggle and Biological was the key to understanding this whole lab leak COVID origins farce. When I spoke to Jimmy Dore by phone, Jimmy Dore said he didn't remember it. And I explained to him point by point how the lab leak story was crafted, and I debunked and just politely challenged and debunked what he had to say until he had nothing left. And the last thing he said was that, yeah, he was interested in interviewing Cooey, and I sent him the contact info, and I emailed his team, his production team, and his production team said, great, yeah, well, they confirmed. Great, thank you. And the last sentence he said was, thank you for your candor, Dan. meaning I can't challenge anything you're saying. So I'm just going to try to back out as quietly as possible from this conversation. And I just thought, okay, all right, well, man, Jimmy's just, for some reason, he can't get it. Well, now you know why. Because he is working with Steve Bannon, promoting Steve Bannon. Real dissidents don't get profiled in the New York Times. Fake dissidents get profiled in the New York Times. Real dissidents don't get profiled in CNN. Fake dissidents get profiled in CNN. What is this? This is ridiculous. The former head of the ACP foreign whatever who resigned, who is supposedly a farmer with a wife and family in Vermont, but now went to Russia to live there? Huh? Posing in front of a sign saying kill Trump? So then libs of TikTok can go viral saying these people are crazy? This is how these people are serving the American people? This is a joke on the American people. This is disgusting. This is a joke on the Iranian people. I want peace between all the nations of the world and brotherhood and development between China and Russia and India and Mexico and the US and Iran. But this is what these scripted shithead actors are doing. And here's the other one, Ted Cruz, who has also got a Skyhorse book doing negative promotion of former Democratic staffer for Elizabeth Warren, Calla Walsh, who is at the funeral. Do you think this girl's real either? If they're in the theater, if they're being talked about, you can pretty much be certain they're fake. Maybe this girl is just, another child brain. But if Ted Cruz, who has a Skyhorse book, who's all part of this, is promoting her, pretty good chance it's fake. I'm going to end this stream by showing one of Mark Kulak's latest videos. Now, I really encourage you to go watch this entire video and the follow-ups he's done, because this was 2 days ago. But this is about how there's General Flynn, close associate of Steve Bannon, Jimmy Dore's buddy, Skyhorse Steve Bannon, with a woman named Anne Elizabeth Fundner, who claims that her teenage son, died of from a fentanyl pill that he got at a party. And he'd never used drugs at all, but he took this pill that he got at a party when he got home and was going to bed, which doesn't even make sense. Because if you're a kid at a party taking a pill so you can have fun, why would you take it when you go to sleep? Doesn't really make sense. It's possible she's actually lying. And I don't know if this is the same night or the night before her son supposedly died that she was with General Flynn. And she's been pictured with Tucker Carlson. She's been pictured with Trump. I'm not even going to take the time. If you're a decent person, this is the most important video on the internet that you can watch, is what Mark has presented here. Mark Kulak has presented here. And I'm just going to play out Mark and then do one more thing. I'm just going to let Mark talk here for a minute.
This is out of control. We have to make America real again. Make America not Hollywood again. We need real people. And I understand that maybe when people get elected presidents.
Make America real again. That is a message that Jonathan J. Cooey endorses, that Mark Kulak endorses, and I am endorsing too. Yes, stop. Just what you got to do is just stop watching them. This theater collapses when we stop watching it. When you get off of social media and stop thinking that it's real, that Jackson Hinkle and Nick Fuentes are really fighting. When you stop watching these stupid podcasts, the Barracks, who never contributed anything. When you stop watching Jimmy Dore or the Gray Zone or cheering on one side of a war or another, it's just there are bigger agendas that are taking place behind this theater. And 200 people still this year dying every day of opioids. So how is the American Communist Party going to organize a workers' revolution while they're silent about those workers dying, being murdered? It's an online phenomenon. It's fake. The revolution will not be podcast. The revolution will not be social media. This song says it all. It just needs to be updated for the current moment. My name is Dan Cohen. Thank you for being with me. I'm signing off 1:35 p.m. On Thursday, July 9th. Thank you.
Be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials because the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. The revolution will not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading a charge by John Mitchell, General Abrams, and Spyro Agnew to eat hog maws confiscated from a Harlem sanctuary. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by the Schaefer Award Theater and will not star Natalie Woods and Steve McQueen or Bullwinkle and Julia. The revolution will not give your mouth sex appeal. The revolution will not get rid of the nubs. The revolution will not make you look 5 pounds thinner because the revolution will not be televised, brother. There will be no pictures of you and Willie Mae pushing that shopping cart down the block on the dead run or trying to slide that color TV into a stolen ambulance. NBC will not be able to predict the winner at 8:32 on report from 29 districts. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of Whitney Young being run out of Harlem on a rail with a brand new process. There will be no slow motion or still life of Roy Wilkins strolling through Watts in a red, black, and green liberation jumpsuit that he has been saving for just the proper occasion. Green Acres, Beverly Hillbillies, and Hooterville Junction will no longer be so damn relevant, and women will not care if Dick finally got down with Jane on Search for Tomorrow, because black people will be in the street looking for a brighter day. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no highlights on the 11 o'clock news and no pictures of Harry armed women liberationists and Jackie Onassis blowing her nose. The theme song will not be written by Jim Webb or Francis Scott Keys, nor sung by Glenn Campbell, Tom Jones, Johnny Cash, Engelbert Humperdinck, or The Rare Earth. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be right back after a message about a white tornado, white lightning, or white people. You will not have to worry about a dove in your bedroom, the tiger in your tank, or the giant in your toilet bowl. The revolution will not go better with Coke. The revolution will not fight germs that may cause bad breath. The revolution will put you in the driver's seat. The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.